Je to takhle? The launch is finished now. The launch is finished now. 20 minutes. Víš, aby ho Ruprechta.
Jiřino, tady máš tu tašku a čepici.
Jo, to vždycky. Working lunch has officially ended. They will continue with press conference right away.
Čau, hele, tak jak to můžeš to napilovat, jo? Bude si musíme. Tak ono to začne za minutu, tak takhle. Jo, jak je to filmové prostě. Jo, OK, dobrý, děkuji, čau. Tak můžete na takhle, jo?
Dobrý den, vítejte.
Good afternoon. Welcome again at the press conference after the session of the Friends of Cohesion Group. I'd like to give the floor first to the Prime Minister of the Czech Republic, Mr. Andrej Babiš. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Dear Prime Minister, I am really happy that we have this opportunity to speak, the two of us, because the role of the Croatian Prime Minister, Andrej Plenković, is certainly going to be key, because Croatia will take over the presidency in the Council as of January 1st. And of course, during the 6 months, the main lead topics of the European Council, European Commission, and so forth, the lead topic will be the financial framework for 21 to 27. We have welcomed 16 representatives of European countries. We had 10 prime ministers. We also had other representatives on the level of ministers. And this was the summit of the Friends of Cohesion group. So cohesion was the lead topic. Cohesion is a key investment tool for our citizens. It's an investment tool of the European Union that helps significantly to improve the environment in the regions. And for the Czech Republic, that's the most important fund, because these are money, that's money going to building highways, to build schools, kindergartens. It's money flowing to healthcare and to other areas where we do need the investment, because we're lagging behind in terms of investing in these areas. So our discussion was very transparent and open. And what was really important was that we had Commissioner Oettinger representing the European Commission, the Commission that proposed that European proposal that we significantly disagree with. And it was also important that we had a representative of Italy at our summit, because Italy was the only country out of all the 17 that is a net payer. So what we were discussing is that the Commission's proposal is by 37 billion euro smaller in terms of the bulk of money if we compare it to the previous financial framework. And I am convinced that we can find much more money in the budget that could be used in a much better way. Most of our colleagues talked about the so-called rebates. The system of rebates started when the UK joined the EU, and back then it was negotiated by Prime Minister Thatcher. Back then, 70% of the budget was revolving around agriculture, and since UK didn't have so much in agriculture, they negotiated rebate. The rebates amounted to almost €9 billion in the previous period, and it should be €14.5 billion in the upcoming period. So this one item, which does not make sense because it's not fair for all the countries, if we just cancel this one item, it's €14.5 billion that we gain. And there are many other items that we can discuss. Most of the countries here are also members of NATO. We have our commitments. We try to reach the 2% of GDP in spending on defense, and simply to give more money to cohesion, for example, does not seem to be meaningful for us. There are also other items, and I don't want to go into details. It is important that we have agreed on a joint declaration. We adopted that declaration, and there we declare that cohesion is a key EU investment tool. It's a clear message for all the other member states. It's a clear message for the European Commission. And the role of Mr. Plenković, Prime Minister of Croatia, will be really important in the upcoming 6 months period, because I think that in the upcoming half year there could be an agreement on the multi-annual financial framework. So I think the debate was really useful, and I'm happy that Mr. Plenković is here with me, and we can say a few words. So the Croatian Prime Minister, Andrej Plenković. Thank you. Dear Andrej, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you also on behalf of my colleagues and all of those that participated in this summit. So congratulations for an excellent organization in this always beautiful Prague. We have adopted a joint declaration today. It is a declaration that sends a very clear message to the member states. Those member states that are still in the stage where, because of their level of development, they are still aspiring to get to the same level as the other member states. So we, Croatia, agreed with the declaration, and we are the youngest member of the EU, and we, of course, agree with that declaration, with all those paragraphs that we agreed on, and as the future presiding country in the Council of the EU, we have a goodwill and we have the ambition to work with the upcoming President of the European Council to work on all the issues, and we will, of course, cooperate with the Finnish presidency as well, the current presidency. So we will want to find the widest possible consensus on the budget, because without any doubt, that's the most important political document for the EU at this moment. So, of course, the budget must follow strategic priorities, those that we agreed at the European Council in May. There must be a chance to implement the new European Commission's program, the new Commission headed by Ursula von der Leyen. And it also must give a chance to all member states to perceive the membership in the EU as something that gives them an added value. It is important that citizens of all member states feel that added value. And that's why what Andrej said about cohesion policy and all the other topics that we have to have on our mind. We also discussed security on the borders, in relation to migration, all of that played a role in creating the political architecture in many member states. So once again, thank you and congratulations, Andrei, for organizing this summit, and we'll continue discussing this at the December summit. So Czech TV is the first one to ask a question. Kateřina Sedláčková, Czech TV. Good afternoon. I'd like to go back to where you want to find the missing money for the cohesion fund. Prime Minister, you've mentioned the rebates and also funds related to the administration of the EU. Will that be enough? And do you have the support of other EU member states? Well, yes, certainly, because the rebates are unjust. And since the UK is leaving the EU, and the whole system of rebates was developed when the UK joined the EU, and last year the rebates were 9 billion euro, and for the new budget they're planning to have rebates of 14.5 billion euro without the UK. So if the UK does not leave, then it will be much more than that. Commissioner Oettinger argued using things like inflation, but I think that the fundamental base for the calculation is wrong. So if we say that in 2018 the EU budget was 159 billion euro, and out of that this structure of rebates represents 10 billion, so that's how much it costs us, plus 250 billion for the sheer operations of the EU, of the institutions. So that's a lot, and the cost altogether is 85 billion euro for the running. So we also discussed the defense budget, which increased from 1.9 to 27 billion. So that's plus 25 billion. And most of us are members of NATO, and of course we do increase our spending on defense. We also discussed migration, we discussed Frontex, where the amount is also increased by some 25 billion. And most countries were saying that they can manage illegal migration with their own devices. There's also the Juncker's package, which is increasing from 4 to 14 billion euro. There's also the Eurozone budget. Why should the EU have two budgets? 25 billion. That's something completely new and unacceptable for us, because we're one EU and we have one budget. So I can find many items in amounting to dozens of billions of euro. And I told my colleagues that I will put the work in it and I'll put it down on paper, so that we have something to argue with, to use it for argument, to know where to find the money. Because, for example, if we increase the horizon and not all the money, all the countries can draw on that, and there's also an increase by some 30 billion euro. These are all items that we have to discuss further. And as I said, there's no reason to decrease money going to cohesion. We all agreed on that. Cohesion, that's money going to investment, to highways, to kindergartens, to schools, to hospitals, and so forth. So that's investment money, and it's money that we need, and we know better what we need the money for, and we know it better than the European Commission. Gordan Jvanovic, Croatian TV, question to Prime Minister Plenković. So when the UK is going to leave the EU, so there will be a requirement to simply cancel the whole system of rebates, because it's mainly linked to the membership of the UK. So what is the chance that it will be all finished, that the discussions will be finished during your presidency? Well, I think that I've said it clearly. With the new European Council president, we're going to do our best to finalize all those discussions. I think it is important for the citizens in all EU member states to know that it is important to know the date, the date when the budget is going to be approved and when the UK is going to leave the EU. We also think that the draft budget was presented to us too late, but it's a good background to discuss and to achieve a compromise. When it comes to the system of rebates, something that started in the beginning of the 70s, in relation to Brexit, it became a big issue, of course, and we'll have to discuss it further with EU member states, especially those that are net payers. And it's still going to be discussed further, and I don't want to speculate when we're going to start these discussions. So, I just want to add that, yes, it is true that the whole system of rebates started when the UK joined the EU, but the net payers are Belgium, Denmark, France, Ireland, Italy, Holland, Austria, Finland, and Sweden. And Austria, Denmark, Holland, and Germany have the rebates. So, of course, logically, the other countries are asking, well, why I do not have the rebates when the others do have the rebates? So it's simply not a logical system, and it needs to be cancelled. It's 14.5 billion euro for the next financial period without the UK, and it was 9 billion in the previous period. And it's a huge amount of money, and it's not logical. The whole system is not logical. We simply have to cancel it, take the money, and bring it back to, for example, cohesion. Well, yes, I can see that you were the Minister of the Prime Minister of Finance. Okay, so thank you. That was the last question, and have a nice day.